A former TNA character has debuted on SmackDown with AJ Styles. It's like all of TNA is coming to WWE the same day that Progress and ICW and WXW are all coming to the network. I doubt this is the sign of a larger Impact move to the WWE network or an invasion, but this is the character. Well, he wasn't called Joseph Park, but in TNA, back in the day, Abyss, obviously a huge part of TNA, one of the biggest stars there. He would feud for the title. He nearly got poached by WWE to have a WrestleMania match with The Undertaker. This was all going on behind the scenes in the noughties, and Abyss said, no, you know what? I'm sticking with TNA. I think they're on the up. Well, that decision worked out well in hindsight. And he had this, great run as Abyss, as this hardcore monster. But then in the early part of the teens, he tried a new character called Joseph Park, which was the sort of legal representation of Abyss. And he's in the suit. And he's, despite being an enormous human being, he's sort of got that kind of Christopher Reeve performance of Superman. When he's Superman, the chest's out like that. He's Abyss the monster. But when he's Clark Kent, he's, despite being huge, the way he composes himself, his little nervous flutters, he feels so much smaller than he is. And that Joseph Park character really was repurposed out of nowhere for a segment with AJ Styles here. AJ Styles has debuted the phenomenal Intercontinental
Statistic System,
which is an acronym.
Yes.
For piss.
Oh, that's a naughty word. I'm not allowed to use that one. Actually, no. Well, this show was TV-14, so no wonder they're allowed to use words like that.
Well, that's another thing. Oh, by the way, I'm Ollie Davis, filling in for Pete on his week off, joined by Randy Andy Datson. So this is another big talking point. Talked about it in the news that went up earlier. Yeah, this was a TV-14 rated episode. I don't think everyone missed it apart from one guy on Twitter who posted the picture. Hey, this is TV-14 now, because there wasn't anything really to stand out as a non-PG angle on this show.
No, I didn't watch this thinking, oh yeah, this is grittier. I mean, I guess Braun attacking a woman was something. Maybe Retribution is so hardcore now that they just thought, well, this could scare some children. We don't want them to think that this is okay for them to watch.
Yeah, or like if you just compare it to Raw, last couple of weeks of Raw with the sexy dancers, Raw Underground, MMA feel, that's still technically PG. Whereas this one, TV-14. But yeah, maybe it's piss. But the point here is AJ Styles comes out for a segment. Before the break, it said, oh, AJ is going to come out with his new Moneyball style statistics coach. And yeah, it's Abyss, Joseph Park there. He has been working as a backstage producer and agent for WWE for about 2 years now. He was part of that influx of backstage talent WWE poached from TNA Impact now, of course, along with like Jeremy Borash and
Sanjay Dutt.
Yes, Sanjay Dutt as well. It's kind of like Triple H's guys that he was using in NXT and then brought up to the main roster behind the scenes, part of his own Retribution style takeover. So it was really nice to see Abyss get an on-screen role here.
A piss. And it was cool. It was cool, and it was obviously cool to see Jeff Hardy join in to really kind of hammer home this TNA stuff. Do you think that the piss was a reference to the Jeff Hardy previous storyline with the whole "we in the face" and the drugs tests and the drinking test and things?
Yes, totally could be.
Yeah.
I didn't pick up on that though, because I was more thinking this is Tony Khan. This is a slight at Tony Khan. Because AJ
the
Styles,
ranking system.
Yeah. AJ Styles comes out and he says, look, I look around everywhere and there's statistics in baseball and there's fantasy leagues and stuff. I'm going to bring statistics into wrestling. That sounds to me like a sort of nod towards maybe their direct competitor on Wednesday nights, whose former business was a sports statistics company.
Sometimes I genuinely think that WWE asks Louis Dangoor what's annoying him about AEW so that they can make fun of it, because he hates AEW's ranking system. Every time it's mentioned, he goes, "It doesn't make any sense." And then the other editors on the website are like, "Oh well, it doesn't really need to make sense. It's just kind of like, yeah, some bits it can make sense." Like there was early this year, there was, I can't remember which team it was. There was a team that was ranked top of the tag rankings, which had a 2-1 record, and then the third ranked team had a 3-3-0 record. So they'd won all their matches, but they were in third place, whereas the team with the 2-1 was in first place. Yeah, it really rankles a lot of people. Yes, I do see why, because that kind of thing doesn't seem to make sense. But then you'll go, yeah, but the people at the top beat the teams that were second and third. It's a bit much for me, but like I get that I can sort of see what they're trying to do. But yeah, this did seem like a pretty obvious shot at statistics don't belong in wrestling, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, screw AEW, right, for trying to make logical sense of stuff. But you know that I love AEW, but I have been very vocal how the ranking system isn't done right by them. They really pick and choose when they want to use it. Excuse me, as sort of a way to book their matches. But yeah, so it was quite funny to see AJ Styles do this, and the Joseph Park piss character, a piss, as you so brilliantly puns there, was a sort of Moneyball style figure, and he's there in his suit. I love him as a performer because, like I said, all the Christopher Reeve, Clark Kent stuff earlier, he's just got like this amazingly expressive face where it's like Penn and Teller. He looks like Penn Jillette.
That's what I was genuinely going to wait for you to finish, because I was going to say he looks like Penn from Penn and Teller. Yeah, no, because I genuinely, if you'd said, "Oh, which former TNA star is that?" Because I didn't watch back in the day when he was Joseph Park, I don't think I would have clocked it. So that's impressive in itself. Yeah, no, he's just this kind of giant but almost sort of demure man.
Yeah, because he also contorts his face into all these like sort of wacky facial expressions. Like, yeah, it's Pee Wee Harmon combined with Penn Jillette's frame. I thought he was really good. He didn't actually have anything to do really.
No,
he's just there standing in the as the kind of human embodiment of this statistics thing. He didn't, like, if they were really going for AEW, they could have used someone who looked more like Tony Khan, I suppose. Yeah,
I mean, it could well have been that Vince was going around going, can anyone do this segment? And he just goes, oh yeah, I can do something like that. I mean, I've done this sort of thing before. He's like, oh, where have you done that? Oh no, it's a totally original idea. You won't have seen this anyway. So. Yeah, no, it was a really nice addition to the segment, even if he was kind of just sort of a background character.
Well, AJ Styles, after saying the word statistics about 18 times, and, you know, of all the characters, of all the wrestlers to sort of rely on science and empirical evidence, I don't know if AJ Styles is the right guy. It's almost like a rib on AJ. That he's there saying, look, you got to rely on the numbers. So he says, you know, he reveals that the ranking system is just him. He's the only person in the IC division. And that brings out Jeff Hardy. Like you said, he challenges him to a match. AJ says no. And Jeff Hardy lays them all out, signs the board with a permanent marker, which was very funnily brought up later. And yeah, so no match was made for SummerSlam. But you've got to imagine it's AJ versus Jeff, right?
Yes, and I do not need to see that.
You don't want to see Jeff Hardy versus AJ Styles?
I would have done 10 years ago when Jeff could. I see. Jeff Hardy was my favorite wrestler when I was growing up. Like a lot of people, I think, who grew up in my kind of era. I just find his matches incredibly formulaic and stunted now because all of his his bones from his back to his ankle are all one bone now. So all of his moves just look really uncomfortable, and he just does the same 8 moves. I know a lot of people do the same 8 moves, but they actually put moves in between those moves, whereas he just does the same 8 moves. And I'm sure AJ Styles could make him look really good, but it looked for a while like they were intertwining all these stories with Sheamus and Shorty G and Matt Riddle and Baron Corbin, and it looked like we were heading for some kind of 6-pack challenge 5-man match, which I'd have been way more into than just a singles match with Jeff Hardy.
That could still happen. They never made the match official. And on the Jeff Hardy stuff, I do agree. Like, I was never super into the Hardy Boys like everyone was. But you can't deny Jeff was really unique in the way he used to wrestle. If you go back and watch his stuff from back then, you're like, oh my God, this is so beyond everyone else at the time. But now it does feel like he wrestles matches as though he starts falling over at the start of the match. Yeah. And in that sort of forward motion is always falling over right to the end.
But it's okay because what's her face? Shayna Baszler distracted us at one point in the show from Jeff Hardy's inability to walk by doing exactly the same thing. But we'll get to that.
So yeah, we'll find out about the Intercontinental Championship plans next week. I think it's going to be Jeff versus AJ. I believe. I think
it has to be now. Yeah. It makes sense for it to be. I would just have preferred, because if that is the case, then we've got Matt Riddle. I mean, it's probably going to be Matt Riddle against Baron Corbin by the looks of things, or Matt Riddle versus Baron Corbin and Shorty G, something like that at SummerSlam. Or even Matt Riddle and Sheamus somehow versus, even though Sheamus is 2 weeks kind of 2 weeks ago he was making fun of an alcoholic, and now he's apparently just beating up heels. So,
but he was getting booed by the planted crowd.
We'll come on confusing.
Yes. Yeah. But I guess the only other thing is, do you want to see more of piss?
I always want to see more of Piss. I feel like he could be a really fun character just for AJ to just sort of drag around. Doesn't really have to do anything. And I'm not saying he should have a wrestling match, because I don't know if he's interested in that, but like, he has the ability to get physical if needed. So that could be a fun little addition to the story.
Well, I think, I would adore a long-term, couple of months bullying storyline. AJ and poor old Piss. I imagine we'll find out his real name at one point, but AJ's always calling him just Piss this and Piss that. And after a bit, he finally snaps, and we get Abyss in WWE.
I like how your idea of long-term for WWE was a couple of months.
Hey. I've got to be realistic here. But yes, that's the main talking point, I would argue. Although, it was the most, I found it the most fun. It was the most clickable image.
Oh yeah, obviously. Thumbnail.
Yeah. So this was a pretty newsworthy show elsewhere. Let's get on with the full play-by-play. Don't worry, WWE have seen all the Retribution attacks, and they've posted 2 security guards on the front door.
Yeah, because as we've seen, Retribution always use the front door to get in. They want to cause havoc, but they want to do it sort of by the letter.
You've got to protect those glass windows. They threw a just a cinder block through there last week on Monday. Yeah. Well, seriously, it really undermines them as a threat. The WWE don't take them more seriously. The first match was Big E versus John Morrison. Big E got a really, really fun promo, like an inset promo before the match. He's really capturing that kind of 80s cocaine spirit. And I'm really behind that as a sort of style. And then him and John Morrison are in the ring, but it never got started because somehow Retribution got in the building.
And they did the Shield. They surrounded the ring on each side. And they didn't do what the Shield used to do, which was allow one side of the ring to be open because there's only 3 of them. So they have clearly learned from that. But because of the way that they've been portrayed in the last couple of weeks, which is, lights are going on and off, I wasn't like, it's Retribution. I was like, oh, it's Retribution.
Yeah, it was more like, oh, okay, so they're doing this here. But
Yeah.
not like a big surprise. It's just, well,
Yeah.
this is the bit.
Well, Raw's the A show, so they're not actually allowed to do too much disruption. But when it comes to SmackDown, they can just do whatever they like.
So even though they have been more present in SmackDown, you know, Raw just seems to be the surrounding area of the car park. They hate the Raw car park, but the SmackDown in ring stuff, Michael Cole and Corey Graves run away immediately, which was a nice touch, I guess. But no one came out to help Big E and Morrison. And it's a bit frustrating. I'm trying to like it, but it's difficult to buy into the little backstage segment that came next, where you've got all the heels, well, not all the heels, but a lot of the heels and a lot of the mid-card baby faces sitting there together and being like, we need to do something about this. You're like, you could have done this just then.
Yeah, I know. It's really frustrating. You could do so much more with this, and they're consistently doing the sort. I wouldn't say bare minimum, but it doesn't feel like. It feels like they've gone right. We need a new faction, which is going to ruin some stuff, going to break some things, and that's as far as they've got with it. They haven't really. It hasn't got a character other than we're just going to disrupt some things here and there. Like you said, because no one came out to help, it doesn't feel like anyone in the back's going, oh, it's just those blokes who just beat up the crowd a bit. We're not going to worry too much.
Well, I think that is a real big problem, is that because it is so obviously and reportedly a last-minute idea, Retribution don't play into any actual storylines. And they're kind of hammering together this storyline on Raw where they're kind of feuding with the mid-card roster. But in terms of actual main event plot lines, they are completely separate too, apart from a few flickering of lights.
Yeah, if they were, like you said, they're only attacking during mid-card feuds. If they were I wouldn't want to see them get involved in the Braun Bray stuff now, but I mean, if you had them kind of going for maybe not Randy or Drew, but someone who you thought could be the next guy to face the champion, then I'd take them much more seriously if they were actually doing something, if they were writing people off TV. But at the moment, they're kind of turning up, and then the people they attack are then having another match, a match later in the show, because it was like, oh yeah, my leg's a bit sore, but actually that's all they did.
Also, Kevin Dunn filmed this beatdown was like they heard the criticism of too many camera cuts, and doubled the amount of camera cuts.
Well, later in the show, because they attack later in the show as well, I was trying to get a still screenshot of it, and it was impossible because, I'll do it. It was kind of like, I was just stop doing that. I can't actually tell what's going on, and every time you pause it, it was just another blur of people. And I actually I get they're kind of going, this is chaos. How can the cameraman work in these conditions? But like, I actually want to see what's going on, not just sort of having a fit, just trying to watch it.
Yeah, I agree. So to get around this, obviously there was this sort of meeting of the roster backstage. Baron Corbin tried to say he should be the leader here, but Big E was like, no, and he sort of cut a promo on how he's going to go out there and still fight John Morrison. Good stuff from Big E. I really looks like they've got plans for him, and serious plans as well. Not just like, oh, we've got to push Kofi plans. It's like, no, this feels like SmackDown genuinely want to make him a featured main eventer in a couple of months, and they're taking their time over that.
They've got 2 weeks, because that's when Kofi's back, because he said, I'm away for 6 weeks, and then everyone went, 6 weeks, okay, so that he's going to have a match at SummerSlam, and then Kofi's going to come back. I hope I'm wrong about that, but yeah, because he is a ready-made single star, because he can still be affiliated with the New Day. The New Day could still be Big E, Xavier, and Kofi. I mean, Xavier Woods should be back soon. I mean, he was rumored to be back around WrestleMania. So I would be surprised if he wasn't ready to return. So, but then, as they've done in the past, New Day tag team could be Kofi and Xavier, and then Big E could be like their breakout star, just like they had with Kofi last year. And I would take Big E much more seriously than Kofi because the whole Kofi storyline had the whole, okay, we're just doing this to make you happy, rather than we're doing this because we actually believe in him.
Yeah, and I think Vince McMahon always has liked Big E, just because he's, Vince McMahon loves bodybuilding, and Big E has that kind of background. So to get around the Retribution attack again, SmackDown put some more security guards around the ring, one of whom was the same security guard that was shown outside the arena.
They realized that they're not going through the front door, so what's the point of protecting it anymore? So you've got to put them where was the last place they saw them?
That's like, what they say in strategic warfare.
Around the ring. So you're going to put your people around the ring. It's like when you're playing cricket and a batsman keeps hitting it in the same place, and you're thinking, okay, well, I'm going to put a fielder there to stop that from happening again.
No, not just put one fielder there. Yeah. Put your entire fielding team there. That's what they did. Yeah, and you wouldn't think, that might create a bit of an opening elsewhere. And
they thought, no, wait, this isn't enough. We're going to put the entire roster around the ring as well. That'll stop anyone from attacking.
And then, that's because that's what happened in the main event with Big E and Morrison. You'd think, now we've got loads of security guards that we can deploy throughout the building. So after this, we got Sasha Banks and Bayley coming down to introduce the triple brand battle royal. So a couple of people from NXT Raw and SmackDown are all going to have a battle royal to crown Bayley's #1 contender. This was a lot of fun. I thought it was pretty well booked as well as a segment. Overall, in the grander scheme of things, I don't know how productive it is to make Asuka the #1 contender. So, both, all of SmackDown's women's division, really, because I'm not really counting Banks and Bayley as exclusive to SmackDown anymore. All of the rest of the women's division are kind of just put to one side and don't get a look in for the biggest pay-per-views of the year.
They pushed Dana Brooke in this match, sort of. She got to the final 3.
Yeah. Was eliminated immediately.
I mean, she was in the final 3. I mean, that's like being in the final 3 of the Rumble. I mean, that's a certified push.
Well, let's go through what happened. A quick play-by-play. Banks and Bayley did the ring introductions in very good heel manner. Yeah. And they get to one card, and it's obviously Asuka, and they try and skip it, being like, that can't be right. And Asuka comes down, so that was cool. There was Shayna Baszler there as well, the Iconics. Ruby Riott, Liv Morgan, and the Iconics were all eliminated first because that storyline won't go anywhere. Standard Tamina spot. She's big. She's strong. And she threw someone out. But then Bianca Belair picked her up and threw her out.
Yeah, that's cool.
That was cool.
I mean, there was some notable absences. I mean, unless I was blind, Nia Jax wasn't there. So, I mean, I guess the stories of heat on her might be true, or maybe she's just distancing at the moment.
She's disappeared, hasn't she, since she wrote writing Charlotte off TV also seemed to have written Nia Jax off TV.
Well, yeah, her gimmick seems to be accidentally or on purpose writing people off TV. So maybe they thought that having all those people, I mean, last time she was in a ring with that many people, she broke Becky Lynch's face. So perhaps they were slightly worried about that. But it was cool to see Tegan Nox getting like a little bit of a push. I can't remember who I was talking to, but I think someone even suggested that Tegan Nox. So I don't know if there's been like a sort of speculation that Tegan's getting a bit of a push. But that would be fun. At least that's someone else, because yeah, like you said, the 3 women in the women's roster now are Sasha Banks, Bayley, and Asuka, and that is it.
It sounds like we're never happy, because we've been asking for the last 2 years, give us someone other than Charlotte, and then we get Becky, and then we're like, give us someone other than Becky, and now we've got Bayley, Sasha Banks, and Asuka, who we've been asking for forever, and now we've got them 3. But somehow WWE managed to make it where I'm like, well, now you're pushing them all too much.
Well, yeah, but it's because you've got such a large male roster, and there are separate matches for every single belt and feud. You've got, I mean, yes, you've got the two main top belts. You've got the mid card belts. You've got the two different tag belts, but all the women's belts are tied up in the same feud. So it's just there's no exposure for anyone else, and you can say as much as you want that, oh, but all the women were in this match. Yeah, but all the women were in this match to push the woman you were already pushing. That was the only reason they were there, so that she looks even better.
It's awkward though, because I'm not actually against it, because I do
like Asuka.
Yeah, I love Asuka. I think Banks and Bayley have been superb, and the nature of the storyline kind of involves all the belts. So it's actually, I would argue there's a lot of potential here for storytelling. It's a shame it's come at the expense of the rest of the SmackDown women's division, but it's like, yeah, I don't mind it that much. The finish of the match was, as you said, Tegan Nox did get down to the final three, but then Dana Brooke was like, I'm smart. I was just hiding over here all the time. Got rid of Tegan Nox, was thrown out immediately, comes down to Asuka and Shayna Baszler. Shayna throws out Asuka, but due to some scuffling just beforehand, Banks and Bayley had they were down on the floor after taking a bump. Asuka lands on them, and she can just walk back onto the apron. Her feet haven't touched the floor. She eliminates Baszler to win. So I thought that was pretty good. And then Asuka attacked them both backstage afterwards.
Do you think Asuka has to win one of the belts, or is she going to look dumb if she loses both?
So the Banks and Bayley said they're defending the singles titles at SummerSlam and then the tag team titles at Payback. I don't think you can carry on this big title act much longer. But I've got to admit, I do like them with all the belts. I reckon it might turn into a triple threat where all the belts are on the line in one match, because then I don't think Asuka will win, but Bayley or Banks might pin Asuka, and then all the belts go on one of them.
That would be interesting, because then you'd really have one of them going, oh yeah, we've got all the belts. But it's not me who has all the belts, it's you who has all the belts.
We've got all the belts. So it's kind of like and I think Bayley would be the choice there. To win that. It's because they can't really be angry at each other, but it is a crappy situation.
I've actually been genuinely impressed with how they've done this, because a few months ago I was just every week it was a bit of tension, and the next week a bit of tension, and I was just like, just do the heel turn already. But now that the way they've done it, I'm actually going, ooh, how are they going to play this off? I mean, how is this going to finish? Which is unusual for WWE. So I'm very pleasantly surprised.
Do you ever find yourself thinking, man, if WWE only put on 1 2-hour show a week, that would be brilliant.
Yeah, because you could have all the Randy stuff. You could have this stuff. You could have all the bits, no Raw Underground, all the bits that are really good, and you'd finish the show and go, wow, no wonder they're the biggest wrestling company in the world.
I'm starting to think WWE are actually really good. They've just got too much stuff to fill.
Yeah, they've got 2 hours worth of brilliant ideas, and then they've got 3 hours worth of rubbish ideas.
Yeah. And NXT of just boring ideas. Oh. Take that. Yeah, AEW's up in the chat. I'm kidding, of course. Tribalism forever. So after that match, we got Mandy Rose, who just isn't she ugly?
Oh,
isn't she ugly with this cut hair?
I hate it when women get their hair cut, because they just look like completely different people. No, she still looks like Mandy Rose, and therefore obviously looks very nice. She sort of goes, yeah, you know what? A lot of people have sort of underestimated me because, do you know what? I am well fit and I've got blonde hair. But actually, Sonya, you've taken it too far now, and I'm going to challenge you to a hair versus hair. And I cannot tell you how long I spent before this podcast trying to Photoshop both of them bald, but I just am not that good at Photoshop.
Braun Strowman lost this match, it seems,
Yeah,
and he came out later. He lost in advance. It's a good angle to set up a hair versus hair feud. So, but
it is
big
good.
stakes.
It is good, but Sonya's going to lose, and Sonya shouldn't lose because I don't think Mandy would sign off on losing all her hair because Mandy is a bona fide model who can't really lose her hair at the moment. Whereas, I just think that I think the buzz cut would really fit Sonya's character because she is. I mean, I know you haven't been watching SmackDown as much lately, but she's been one of the best things on SmackDown. She's just such a star in the making. Both Pete and I have just been like lauding, sending her our praises her way, and it's just. I really hope she does. If she loses this match, it has to be in a screwy way because she has just been so good.
I not necessarily. I think there's a way to do hair versus hair matches where you can really get over in defeat. I totally agree with Sonya. I think with you about Sonya. Mandy Rose cut a pretty good promo here, I'd say. When Sonya accepted it later on in the show, I was like, oh my God, this is like a real promo compared to like Mandy's performance. But yeah, like the last year's Suzuki versus Goto match in New Japan. I know I'm comparing New Japan's Suzuki match to Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose, but there Suzuki lost the match and he was like, as a matter of honor, he shaved his own head. And when that was done, it was like Suzuki was the scariest guy in the whole promotion. And I think Sonya may be doing something similar, being like, no, I'm going to shave my own head, shaving it clean in front of Mandy. And then you've got this crazed Sonya with a buzz cut and that sort of MMA background. It could be. I'm not confident WWE will do that. I think they'll go the more humiliation route of the heel.
Yeah.
But if they do it right, I think Deville could really, really be elevated.
If they do that, then that'd be great. Like you said, I don't think they're going to do that. I absolutely can see Mandy strapping her down and laughing and just cutting their hair off. Yeah, I worry that WWE are building Sonya up just so that Mandy can beat her, and then she can cut her hair off. Sonya needs to win this feud. She doesn't have to win at SummerSlam, but I think it would damage her if she didn't. But like Pete said in the past, she would look much better with a buzz cut than Mandy Rose would. So that's probably where they're going.
Loses match, shaves own head, payback the next week, kills Mandy Rose.
Yeah.
Hopefully. But it's time for the SmackDown highlight of the week.
Those Retribution lads, they're not showing up on my watch. Go on, take it easy. Enjoy yourself.
Yeah. So that was Sheamus there, just telling some of the security in place to protect the roster against Retribution to just take a break. And they just left.
At no point did any of them go, oh, no, Sheamus, we've actually been told, Vince has told us to stay here. This is our job. They just went, yeah, okay. That's a really good idea. I'm going to do exactly that. Thank you very much, Sheamus. I'm going to take the rest of my shift off. I trust you.
Yeah. Notably devious Sheamus, heel who's come back since his return. Well, kind of. Is telling me to leave my position. He's just, technically, Sheamus is a colleague there. The chain of command. He's not like a producer or an executive or an official backstage. I imagine the security guys are outsourced too.
And it wasn't like he had intimidated them either. It was just, oh, you can go, by the way. I've got this covered. It wasn't, you better leave. It was off your pop, lads. And yeah, it's just clearly Big E heel turn.
Well, this didn't play into anything, but it was set up earlier. Sheamus pointed out, hey, Retribution don't get involved in my matches like you bunch of jabronis. And then here he is saying, hey, go away, you security guards. So it is kind of like, it's a ginger herring, maybe.
Yes.
For I like that, you pun hungry monster.
I like that.
for maybe Sheamus being involved in some way with Retribution.
Yeah, he's not. He definitely. I cannot think of few people who fit Retribution less. I mean, he's already been in a rubbish stable when he was in the whatever it was called, Vince McMahon's
League of Nations,
Foreign Men,
and
that sucked. So I really hope, and can you imagine that when they eventually come to take the masks off and he just goes, "Hello, it's me," and it's just I don't want that. He really doesn't need this now. So
I also don't want him essentially squashing Shorty G. So this was a confusing match because Shorty G kind of turned heel last week, sort of taking Baron Corbin's bounty offer up and attacking Matt Riddle. And Sheamus beat Shorty G after that, kind of defending Matt Riddle. And now here he gets another match. And Shorty G was, I suppose, a heel, but maybe he's a babyface on Hard Times. That's not a story that's coming across, but I think that's the one they're trying to tell. And Sheamus is a heel, but he's beaten up this.
So last week, it was Matt Riddle versus Sheamus, and Shorty G, who had been offered up this king's ransom to attack Matt Riddle, to take out Matt Riddle for Baron Corbin, runs down during the match and tries to interfere, but just gets the living S word beat out of him, and he looks like a complete dork the whole time because he's run down. And all that's happened is, I think Matt Riddle has beat him up, and then Sheamus bro-kicked him twice. And then this week, he comes out again, and he just gets beaten up again. And at the start, we were thinking, oh, cool, Shorty G's turned heel. This is like a new thing for him. Maybe he could reclaim Chad Gable. He can stop being Shorty G. But all they've done the last 2 weeks is making him look like a complete jabroni. And I don't. If he interferes again, I'm not thinking, oh, it's Shorty G. I'm thinking, well, this guy's getting thrown into the ring post.
Maybe Chad Gable's part of Retribution.
Maybe that's this new split personality.
Maybe Retribution is kind of. Have you ever seen Forbidden Planet?
Is it lots of short people?
No, it's 1950s sort of futuristic sci-fi movie based on The Tempest. But the whole idea
I've seen The Tempest.
There's the whole idea is that Caliban, that this sort of monster force in Forbidden Planet, is actually driven by the mad scientist guy's mind. And you find this out at the end. It's actually like sort of this externalization force. Maybe Retribution is Chad Gable's anger at WWE booking.
Yeah, fun fact.
And Sonya Deville's going to shave her head and be more badass.
Fun fact, my dad used to be in a band. The lead singer was called Miranda, and I came up with their band name, which was Miranda and the Caliban. Because that's a Tempest joke. Hashtag Shakespeare.
Fun fact. That is a fun fact. So, Shorty G sort of got a bit of offense in here. The commentators put it over like a huge, valiant effort, which isn't something you typically do with someone who turned heel last week. I think in WWE's mind, Shorty G is this babyface who's fallen on hard times, having a bit of a moral complication period. And then when Sheamus won very quickly, very decisively, very cleanly with a brogue kick, the planted crowd was shown booing him with their thumbs down and everything. So that, to me, says WWE sees Shorty G as a babyface, Sheamus as a heel. But the most frustrating thing here was Shorty G did not put in a good work here. He was beaten in a few minutes. But the commentators were saying, I've never seen anyone take it to Sheamus like that. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I don't know. He just seems like a lackey for Baron Corbin now. He's going to be the guy who takes the bumps for Corbin. Corbin will be in. It'll be tag team matches, and as soon as Corbin feels like he's in danger, he's going to tag Shorty G in, who's just going to take the loss, and Baron Corbin's going to walk back. Because Shorty G was using the whole, oh man, I need the money in that. I like. No, you don't know. Like, I've got a family. It's like don't try the Heath Slater thing again. because Heath Slater pulled it off, but I cannot. Like, they've just pulled this out of nowhere. Oh, I need the king's ransom, man. I've told my wife that the guy at work is offering me loads of money to beat someone else up.
I don't think it's something that really connects with a lot of their like younger viewers either. I see Shorty G, I see Chad Gable. I've always thought, wow, he feels like a young star.
Yeah.
And when he starts trying to get over a tale of, I've got a wife, I've got a family, I've got kids to support, which, you know, many mid-20-year-old people do. I don't think that's
maybe
the most
that's why it was
way to drive his character.
It was PG-14. It was a much more mature storyline. All the kids going, what? Wives, families? But all the 25-year-olds going, oh yeah, responsibilities. Yeah, I got it.
So after that was the AJ Styles piss segment with Jeff Hardy. Then we got the Lucha House Party stealing Shinsuke Nakamura and Cesaro's titles, which went into a Nakamura singles match with Grand Metalik. Pretty good action. Obviously, the wrestling's very good, but ultimately a bit just, I don't know, it just felt like a bit of, there was no real story here.
No,
at least they made their return from injury. That was enough to distract Nakamura, and Grand Metalik won.
It's just a bit of 50. So last week, Cesaro beat Lince Dorado, relatively clean. This week, Grand Metalik beats Shinsuke Nakamura. I guess this is possibly trying in some way to put over Cesaro Nakamura if it's a 2-on-3 handicap match at SummerSlam, which is what they appear to be leading to. Maybe if they win that, then that's what they think. Oh, they look strong because they beat 3 people instead of 2.
I thought it came across like quite a lazy, low-effort storyline.
Yeah.
Matt Riddle is talking to Caleb Braxton backstage. Shorty G walks in and apologizes for taking him out last week. And Matt Riddle's like, oh, bro, that's totally fine.
Don't worry, you've apologized on a swivel.
Yeah,
it's like, no, you don't.
Just lay off the weed, Matt. Not everyone's your friend all the time, because, would you believe it, Baron Corbin blindsided Matt Riddle from behind, took him out, and Baron Corbin was like, cheers for sending me up there, Chad, or Shorty or whatever.
It is lucky that Matt Riddle is such a good wrestler, because his promo work since he got to the main roster has been diabolical. He comes on and goes, oh yeah, the reason I don't wear shoes is because I got frostbite when I was younger, and wearing shoes reminds me of when I got frostbite. And it's just been, I get his character as the king of bros and whatever, but my God, I don't need someone to say bro every 3 seconds for me to know that that's someone's. I mean, Kane, like someone like Kane who walks on just as evisceration and stuff. At least he didn't say evisceration every 3rd word. We get that that's his character. We don't need Matt Riddle to say it every single. Yeah.
Stay away from Vince Russo interviews. I advise. After that, we got a really good sit-down interview with Alexa Bliss, sort of talking about Braun Strowman and their relationship. A lot of clips over like the course of Mixed Match Challenge 2 years ago. God, 2 years ago, Mixed Match Challenge. It seemed like a lifetime ago, which was it was good. It was good to contextualize their relationship, and I quite like Bliss's involvement in this now. I know she kind of came out of nowhere in that Extreme Rules match. And initially, I wasn't so into the whole inclusion of her in the Braun Bray feud. But now, watching this, I quite enjoyed it, because it does harken back to those Universal monster movies from the 30s, which I sort of grew up watching. Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein and Son of Frankenstein and Frankenstein Goes to Europe and Frankenstein Road Trip. And it's like seeing Alexa in there, in that sort of stereotypical classic blonde woman caught between 2 monsters, you know, like the, sort of the King Kong relationship. I really actually like.
Yeah, no, I really like it too. Like they've last week was a bit weird. Like you said in your review, I don't like the hokey Braun on the screen stuff that they do later, and they did the same sort of last week. Because that's just a bit. I mean, Braun's character is that he's a monster. Braun's character's never been that he can teleport, or that he is supernatural. He's just a big bloke who destroys people. Whereas the Fiend's character is this supernatural character. need Braun to somehow have managed to. It's not like Bray is Voldemort and he's done a curse on Braun, who's then taken some of his powers. That's not how this works. This isn't Harry Potter.
As much as you want it to be, Andy.
Mm.
Will that be your final thoughts this week? It was okay.
It just wasn't
Harry Potter.
Yeah. That's
WWE's main problem, right? Is that it's not Harry Potter.
Not enough owls.
That sort of paid off later on. We got Sonya accepting Mandy's challenge, and then we got take 2 of the opening Morrison versus Big E match. Miz is out on commentary this time. Otis comes out to stop Miz getting involved. But the real thing here was all the wrestlers come and surround the ring to stop Retribution potentially coming to attack, which we pointed out earlier, kind of opens up the performance center for other attacks. And would you believe it? That's exactly what happened. When Retribution ran into a backstage area, beat up all the referees, and spray painted quite badly the WWE logo, and then put a cross through it.
They've done that before. They did that on the plexiglass a couple of weeks ago. And yeah, from one side you can sort of see what they're doing, but from the other side it just looks like a really bad drawing. I did like the one ref who was just lying completely flat, prone on the table. It's like, oh yeah, make it look like you've been hurt, and the ref goes, oh yeah, I was going to lie on this table here. Yeah, like you said, it was just a bit kind of, well, they were here earlier, so let's put them all around the ring and leave everyone sort of open to attack backstage. And as much as I get that they are doing their best to try and put Retribution over as sort of these guys who can attack whenever they want, I don't know why it's become a thing that wrestlers are only good at wrestling when they're in a ring, but as soon as they're backstage, they are little children who cannot fight anyone.
Yeah, the Retribution stuff just isn't clicking, really. And it doesn't help when they're quite inconsistently portrayed across the two brands. They feel like they've got it out for SmackDown more.
Yeah,
they haven't touched anyone on Raw. Here they beat up a load of referees.
Here's a theory. SmackDown's taped second in the week, and they often destroy the set.
Potentially.
So could they just be doing that because SmackDown is taped last, and therefore they don't want to break the ring before they tape Raw?
I'm sure they've got a few spare ropes in the back.
Yeah, maybe.
It's the performance center.
That's true.
But the thing that jarred with me most, sorry to nitpick, folks, was Michael Cole screaming when we were seeing this footage of the referees being attacked backstage. The wrestlers round the ring don't know. Somebody tell them. We need some help back there. And it's a closed set. There's not many people making noise.
No.
I'm sure the wrestlers several feet away from Michael Cole would have heard him yelling that on the commentary set. And no one went back to help.
They are all dead. I mean, he's only got this little monitor, so that's his world. No one can hear anything in that. Yeah, that was pretty dumb because there's no crowd to shout over him. As really, there's a few audience members, but yeah, there would have been about 4 or 5 people standing next to the announce table who would have gone, "Sorry, what? What was that, Michael?"
Michael Cole could have taken off his headset and said, "Guys, you need to get back there now." I don't know. They all went back there, leaving the ring totally exposed. And Big E made Morrison tap with a stretch muffler. Didn't really get much of the in-ring action here. And Sheamus just kicked Big E after the win. So you're like, okay, there's a sort of a tangled mid-card web happening here. And then bald Strowman came out before you even got a chance to figure out what happened.
Bald! Yes.
So Braun Strowman with his new completely shaved head look came out.
Don't knock it till you've tried it.
Hey, I hope I never have to. Well, it's going to happen. But Braun came out. He cut a good, Braun's monster gravelly voice style promos are always very good. I didn't like the "consume your entrails" line. I just thought that was a copy and paste bit from like a Kane promo, which you kind of alluded to earlier. But there is an argument here that the storyline is Braun is becoming more like the Fiend.
Yes.
And I read one interpretation that when they both fell into that sort of lake of reincarnation in the swamp fight at Extreme Rules, a bit of their personalities were switched. So there's a bit of Braun in the Fiend now, and a bit of the Fiend in Braun.
It is like Harry Potter. Yeah.
Do you like it now? Do you like this episode more?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I love it. Yeah, I that feels like rose-tinted spectacles to me. As much as I really like it when fans do try and pull something out of it that other people may not have done, but that's not what I got from this.
I mean, it sounds like the exact kind of thing Bray Wyatt would have wanted to do. So, but the problem is that's not coming across at all on screen. No. What's coming across is Braun Strowman has magical powers, so Braun cuts this promo. Alexa comes out. She wants answers from Braun. Alexa is finding herself weirdly compelled towards a man who shoved his fingers down her throat.
Don't pretend you've never had that in your life.
And she's just asking for stuff on that Cameo account now.
Yeah,
she's opened herself up to so many weird messages, so many more weird messages, I imagine. And I loved this bit. I thought this was the sort of emotional peak of the episode where Alexa comes out and she's like, "What's going on, Braun? Talk to me. Come on, we're friends." And Braun is standing, not even looking at her. Like Alexa's behind him. He's sort of turned himself. He's looking down and he's saying, "No, I don't care about you at all. I hate you, Alexa Bliss." And it's like, to me, I saw this unfold and I thought Braun's really struggling trying to tell Alexa that he doesn't care about her. And we've seen this so many times in superhero movies, Spider-Man being the first example that sprung to my mind, where Braun is trying to distance the person that he loves the most from him so his arch nemesis doesn't go after her. So he's saying, "Alexa, I don't care about you. I think you're a piece of crap. Go away." I've just activated my Amazon Echo by saying Bliss's name.
You've ruined my joke. Yeah.
And by trying to get her to go away, it's an effort to protect her. So that and that's what I saw in Braun's face when he couldn't even look at her. Yeah. And then, like, all of a sudden, he picks her up because the lights start to cut out, and he's screaming at the Fiend, "Come for me," because he's going to use Bliss as a weapon potentially. And just as the lights cut out, really well-timed shot, he throws Bliss in the air, but you don't see her land or anything. But then the lights come back on, and the Fiend's in the ring, Bliss is on the floor, and Braun's on the Titantron laughing. And it was just like, I was quite into this emotional, semi-real, like believable story, at least, that isn't grounded in the supernatural. So now I'm like, oh, so Braun can teleport.
Yes. Well, the Fiend said, "Alexa, turn off the lights. You ruined my joke." Yeah, and I'm quite interested in is because, like, there's a great photo on WWE.com of Braun throwing Alexa quite high. I'm wondering how they filmed that because she went high, man.
She's a trained wrestler, and I'm sure she took a bump.
I don't know. I feel like the reason they cut the lights was because Braun threw up and then caught her.
Well, there might be something to the Ric Flair Randy punt technique here.
Yeah.
Was Braun doing that, pretending that he doesn't care about Alexa?
Yeah.
Why did I say the name again? Hopefully that doesn't activate any voice commands. When he throws her, maybe they're in cahoots. Like they planned for that to happen. She was going to land on her feet.
Yeah.
And that's maybe Braun didn't teleport. Maybe actually he ran away and that was a pre-recorded video message. I know I'm filling in my own blanks here, but I've got to do something. Otherwise, it really makes no sense. Otherwise, it's just a series of things that happened.
And that's what they did last week, which is they just have half of his giant face on the screen, sort of doing "I'm scary Braun." Yeah, like he's a monster. He doesn't need to be able to teleport. He can, I don't know, he can just not be there and then not reappear. like he can just be toying with the Fiend. Like that's because that's what that's their storyline. He's toying with the Fiend's sort of twisted emotions. He doesn't then need to reappear. You can just have the Fiend sort of standing over Alexa, or looking. I mean, with the latex mask, it's difficult, but looking as concerned as he can. You don't need them Braun to pop up and be spooky.
Yeah, because like is the Fiend now into Alexa? I don't know. I'm sure there's a good story here because Bray is a genius. Unfortunately, it's been told quite incomprehensibly, and it's not the kind of thing you can just put a video package together for before the SummerSlam match. You go, hey, it all made sense, really. It's actually like quite frustrating to see unfold week to week. So, would you give this episode a Slammy Award?
Of course I would. Yeah, God, I am so talented. I spent a long time trying to figure out how to make it gold, but once again, my Photoshop skills are not that good. Hence the blue ropes which are across him. But yeah, no, I mean, if you've actually seen the original Slammy Award, it does look exactly like that, just more gold.
For audio listeners, Andy has photoshopped the picture of Braun holding Bliss above his head onto a Slammy platform, Slammy Award platform, because they look very similar.
They
to
do.
The actual award. But yeah, overall, I gave this 3 out of 5. I thought it had good stuff in. It's nice reviewing a 2-hour show for WWE for a change. It flew by for me compared to Raw. No,
absolutely. I feel like it seems like we've been quite negative about this show, but there were plenty of bits to make this a good show. I'm as much as I don't want Mandy to lose, I think it'd be a cool match for them to have. It's got the new stipulation. I'm intrigued to see where they're going with Alexa Bliss, Retribution, whatever. But I like the fact that they're pushing Big E. So there were plenty of bits in this that redeemed it for me.
Well, that's all we've got time for today. Please go over and watch yesterday's WrestleTalk podcast episode with Luke and Denise talking about fans potentially coming back to SummerSlam. Dear God. And also my WrestleTalk news episode from earlier today, talking more about that TV 14 rating for SmackDown and some major heat on Velveteen Dream, apparently. And God, another coronavirus outbreak reportedly at the Performance Center. But for now, I've been Ollie Davis. This has been Andy Datson over there. And that was wrestling.